Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel RVCCISinfo, where faculty representatives from Rock Valley College's Computers and Information Systems Department talks to you, our community at large, about things roughly having to do with computers and information systems. Joining me today, as always, is Stephanie Washer. Howdy, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Eric Wolf, and today we thought we would update our security guide for just general computing tips,
Yeah,
right?
because everybody's gonna be getting back into the swing of school,
Yep,
getting
back to
back
work.
into work and stuff. Yeah. So we thought we'd go through that. And we kind of have, I don't know, it's not quite 10, it's just the basics.
We'll call
But
it
of course, the
8 to
first,
10 tips about
yeah.
personal
Uh,
cybersecurity.
yeah. So the big thing is my mom's always like, hey, this isn't working on my phone. And I'm like, did you update or restart recently? And usually it's the update part. So
Right.
software updates are super important for
Yeah. And
security.
like each one of those, 3 under 30s we did on,
Mhm.
some of those really big Kaseya or, solar winds or all of those, massive multinational incursions. The core of all of those was a known security bug that did not get patched, updated.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone in some instances it was ignored. So you should,
Yeah.
everything needs to be patched and updated.
Yep. So number one, keep your software up to date. Always
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
fantastic idea. Number two, use a firewall, use antivirus software, use a VPN where you can.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. And I don't know, in the classroom when we're doing our cybersecurity stuff, we usually turn off the firewall. So, that's
Yeah.
not a great example, but because we want to mess around with things, right?
Hmm.
So, um, but that you should have antivirus and firewall. And if it's a pain in the butt, there's a reason for it. So,
Right. And now there's really no reason not to have a firewall and antivirus protection, because if you're using a Windows system, you have Defender and Firewall
mhm.
built in.
Yes.
If you're on the Mac, eh, it's really hard to recommend getting an antivirus solution because you have to actively install something like in Jackwagon
Mhm.
to get viruses on there, and then use the firewall. It's turned on by default. So
Yep. Yep. And just for like checking your computer for malware and stuff, Malwarebytes is always a good one if you want
yep.
to, for Windows machines, if you want to add on another thing. It
Yeah.
doesn't check it constantly, especially if you get the free version, you have to do it yourself, but that's kind of a secondary one that's nice, that's free.
Yep.
And then on my phone, I think I have AVG free. I
Right.
think is what I use for my Android phone.
Yep. And yeah, and it works pretty okay.
It's fine. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Pretty okay is exactly it.
But I mean, especially in the Android side, it doesn't hurt to have, although it it's more of
I
like a
don't
placebo at best even, but I mean, another layer is always another layer, so that does help.
yeah. And I was testing it out anyway, so
Hmm.
it's not the perfect thing, but it's another thing that you can use.
Yeah, all the layers of BS
Yeah.
you can put between you and a hacker, all the better, or a bot anyway.
And exactly. And with that in mind, you want to make sure that any website you use or any username and password that you have a strong password.
Yep.
And in order
And
to remember that, you probably need a password manager.
yeah, there's no reason in 2021 to like write down your passwords or to
Mhm.
change them by one every time you're required to
Mhm.
by, work or school or whatever. Just use a password manager. They're actually built into, if you've got
Yeah.
uh, a if you've got a Windows PC, you've got
Mhm.
Edge, which will do it for you. If you don't prefer
Mhm.
Edge, you can use Chrome, which will do it for you. If you don't have those, Safari on your devices will do it for you.
Mhm.
That's a way better uh what do you call that? Use
Protection.
of, yeah, and it's built in, and they're going to be actual strong passwords, and
Mhm.
it's it's a much better idea than just your own stupid password that's been used 1,000 times.
There's password managers out there that are third party that are free to. I use
LastPass,
LastPass, yeah, and then there's
1Password.
1Password. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I really like LastPass. I actually pay for it now because I have so much that I use it for. The other thing about strong passwords is you should not have the same password for every single account you have. That
Right.
is a big no.
Right.
And
if you're
go
in
ahead.
like an ecosystem, if you have, an Edge can be an ecosystem because you can use it on a Windows PC, you can use it on a Mac, you can use it on iOS, you can use it on Android. And as long as you're using, like some kind of good security layer on there, like what would be our next tip, multi-factor authentication. So get a
Yes.
text message when you sign in, or Face ID or fingerprint security someplace. That's really going to go a long way, because many more things have gone wrong if you're worried about somebody getting access to your phone or your desktop. Even, it's like, that's biometric security there. Somebody has access to your face then, and we have a big freaking problem. Somebody has access to your fingers for a thumbprint scanner on your phone, and it's like, that's a bigger problem than somebody getting your Gmail password. So
Yeah. So and two-factor authentication is just great for any I don't know, I guess banking. You should have it on any credit card or banking site that you use. I have it for my email,
yep.
when I log into a new computer. So just anything that you care about, you should probably use two-factor
Yeah,
authentication.
absolutely.
It
And
seems like it's annoying, but
it's really not
it's
that
really
bad. The
helpful.
worst of it, and you don't have to do text messaging, like although text messages is pretty convenient because it's right there. But oftentimes you can have applications on your phone that'll let you do it. So there's a
Yep.
Microsoft authenticator that's pretty good. Adobe has their own
Google has
authenticator for
one.
stuff. Yeah, and Google has one that's actually
LastPass has one.
Mhm.
They,
And that
because that's
way,
what.
when you go to sign in on a website, the final authority is still
Mhm.
back with you for facial recognition or whatever.
Well, and if you have apps on your phone that you have two-factor authentication and you get the text, it'll automatically recognize the
Yeah.
text and copy it in there. So it's really nice. It's already written
Yeah.
into the code. So it's very, it makes it a little more seamless, I guess.
Yeah. Next, we have be suspicious of everything. Like, never,
Yes.
ever, ever, ever open an email that you don't think is right.
No. Right, correct. It's kind of like we get annoyed by the telemarketers calling us all the time. The email, just think of the emails like that. That's exactly what it is. Like getting that email, but they're being really sneaky now because the principal at Belvedere North, every once in a while we'll get an email from him going, somebody's impersonating me, so can I just be careful.
Yeah, and just today, so probably not the day of publishing, but the day of recording, DuckDuckGo, the security-minded browser, the security-minded search engine, also has an email service now. So you can get an @duck.com address. So for those of you who have, can I call them inappropriate
Oh,
Gmail accounts?
yes.
And then you message your instructors and you go like, that's not going to be a problem. And it's like, oh yes, it is, because we will tell other instructors about that goofy ass
Yes.
email address you have. So get a normal one at duck.com. But anyway, you can sign up for an account with DuckDuckGo, and then you can filter all of your emails through there, and it will include phishing and spam, and actually even pixel tracking layers of protection.
Oh,
So where there's it's really insidious and it's super nasty, and companies do it, and not every device allows you to get away from it, is one pixel in a An image that is loaded essentially can act like a cookie and track you for things that you did not give permission to. And the DuckDuckGo system there, whatever the service rather, actually just automatically filters that stuff out and then passes it along to your regular email account if you want. So that's pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just getting one other thing. The Pixel, when you said Pixel, it reminded me of my phone. I lost my phone and I used Find My Phone. So things like that are very important to you, like your phone. I didn't actually lose it. It ended up, my sister-in-law ended up throwing it in her purse for some reason. I must have set it down somewhere and then she put it in her purse. And so things like that, you probably want to keep track of because I have everything saved on my phone. So not to mention the, software side of things, like the actual physical kind of keep track of things.
Yeah, that's where I'll say the iPhones are nice because they're like immortal. So the moment one of them gets erased, you can go like, yeah, but here's a new one. And then 2 hours later, it's the same phone, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, well, and I didn't want to get a new phone. I mean, the same thing happens
Oh, no,
with the Pixel is easy.
Oh, it's no big deal. It's just $1,100.
Yeah.
That's like,
yeah. And then I went
never
online.
said.
Yeah, I went online for Find My Phone and I'm like, oh, it's at my sister-in-law's house. So.
Yep. Yeah, which works pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty close to protect your sensitive, personal, identifiable information. They're called PIIs. So this is a true story that I still can't believe is true. A place I taught at was right next to it was in a strip mall that was next to a hospital. So there was the strip mall I taught in, a Starbucks, and then the hospital. And on more than one occasion, there would be a doctor at the Starbucks returning phone calls or leaving voicemails with personal identifiable information and things like healthcare data, like, hey, we're sorry about your blank, like, what the heck is the matter with you? And on more than one occasion, I had seen a doctor walk away from an open laptop and a stack of, whatever, x-rays or it was the craziest thing to me. Like, hey, I know you're a doctor, but I'm a security expert. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, it is a terrible idea.
That's terrible. But, so wherever it is that you can hide some of that personal identifiable information, you'll absolutely want to do that. So that means always being careful for HTTPS is what you want to see when you are on the internet. You want to make sure that you're never using like an open public Wi-Fi network for things.
And just to kind of go with everything else that we talked about, you always want to, my computer's just going to make noise if you can keep hearing that beeping. I think it's about ready to die. So back up everything, back up. If you use OneDrive and that information is really sensitive, you want to have an extra backup. It's, when we buy just recently, there was, I think it was Amazon Prime Day. I think I bought a terabyte SSD drive for $65, something. It was reasonable, especially if you have sensitive information. So I'm not saying that everybody has to go out and buy one of those, but you should put stuff on a backup. Of course, Eric, he's got so much stuff to back up. 1 terabyte or 1 gig is not gonna.
12 terabytes of space since the start of 2021.
Yeah, so
crazy.
So it is crazy.
Don't do that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Do we want to add use or how's this? Secure your mobile device. We can go along with a couple of the stories from earlier. I cannot tell you how many students I see that don't have a PIN on their phone. Gosh. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I know. Even I made my husband have one, or at least your fingerprint.
Fingerprint is fine. Face ID scan is fine. A PIN of 6 characters is better than 4. because
Yes.
4 is not unguessable, but 6 is impossible nearly to get right before the phone will lock you out. So that does tend to work better, but
Mhm.
absolutely have some layer of protection on there. And actually, I haven't left the house with my Android phone in so long because it just got terrible service. But on an iPhone, you can choose to let Face ID even get you into applications.
Oh, right.
So that's been pretty great because, like, you can't open my garage door without my Face ID scan, which is pretty good.
Mhm.
Or Facebook, actually, you can't go to Facebook without a Face ID scan, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. But it really helps lock that device down then.
Yeah.
Do we want to add anything else?
I don't know.
Talked
I think
about
we kind of
backing up
covered
our
it all.
data, I suppose.
Yeah, I talked about it real briefly, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, yeah, back up. If it's important, back it up.
Yep. And then
Or
go ahead.
if you trust a third party, OneDrive or,
Yeah, OneDrive and Google Drive are fine. Box or
fine.
Dropbox, there's 100 of them to choose from.
Yeah.
And again, you can
Mhm.
multi-factor authentication, and that makes it more relatively
Yeah.
secure.
Mhm.
And if it's possible, you can review your accounts and credit and things like that. I know it's a pain in the butt, but it's just kind of the reality that we're living in.
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, and I was gonna say we could add one more thing to the, like, it's another piece of software, but we could add one more thing to protect ourselves online. If you really don't want anybody to see who you are, you could use a VPN if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and they're ridiculously easy. I keep putting things now that for a shameless self plug back to our social media stuff. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We are RVCCISInfo.
Mhm.
But like Opera, the browser for Chromebooks and actually for um, desktops, laptops, whatever, comes with a baked-in VPN now. So, and this people hear you say that and they think you're doing nefarious things. So they think that you're trying to get like region lock stuff off of Netflix, or you're trying to, hide your tracks for whatever. And that's really not the case. It's, why should your mobile phone provider know what your traffic is? Or how easy should it be to you know intercept your traffic when you're doing things like secure transactions for things?
Mhm.
And a VPN really helps stop all that.
Yep. Yeah, it's really not that hard to use either. So,
No, in most it's software enabled, so it's just a tap
mhm.
saying it's here. um it's We can do a future episode or maybe a techno bite on setting up
Mhm.
Opera with
Mhm.
VPN, because I mean it's literally settings, security, turn on VPN. It's
Yeah.
boom and you're done.
Yeah, and I use NordVPN because I just use it as an app on everything. So,
Yeah, if you have Google One, so I pay $3 every month.
mhm.
um well, no, $4 every month for 2 accounts to back up, like 200 gigabytes worth of stuff to Google. There's a VPN as part of that you can pay for. Part of iCloud coming up in September is going to be a VPN-ish experience for your Apple stuff. It's baked into Firefox, actually has
Mhm.
one that is a paid for service, but it's easy to use.
Yeah. Yep. So I think we covered almost everything.
And we made an 11th tip there with the VPN, which we made a
Added
repeat
on.
performance there. So there you go. 10 tips to help keep you safe online. Leave us a comment down below if we have missed anything that is going to help keep you safe online, or if you have stepped into it entirely. Because there's stories of people who should know better, who reply to phishing scams, which is dumb,
Right.
but it happens.
Mhm.
Or if there's another service that you use that we should let other people know about. So hit the like and subscribe button to be notified of future content as it becomes available. We pretty well stick to the Tuesday, Thursday, unless something
Mhm.
goes horribly Wrong. You can also follow us on social media. There will be tons of stuff coming out here in the next couple of weeks with all the iOS security stuff. Everybody else is going to have to up their game. So my guess is we'll find
Mhm.
more in-browser VPN support here in fall. But you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, here on YouTube, and anchor.fm. We are at RVCCIS Info. So, on behalf of Stephanie and myself, Eric, and the rest of the Rock Valley College community, stay safe and stay sane out there, everybody. And that means on the internet too.